Upon seeing Amelia tuck another bottle of men's face wash, a PR gift, into a gift bag, I finally snapped. Looking at the woman I'd loved for a decade, I said, "Let's get a divorce." Amelia didn't even flinch. "Ethan," she said, "you're being childish." She brushed past me, the gift bag overflowing, her voice saccharine. "Daniel, guess what your big sister got you? I'll be there soon. Don't you dare run off with another girl." Amelia didn't return until 3 in the morning. From the window, I watched as her beloved Daniel knelt to tie her shoelace, and she, with a shy smile, patted his head. A heartwarming scene. Anyone would think they were a happy couple, but no one knew. Amelia was my wife. We'd met 10 years ago, dated for 3, and been married for 7. Our marriage hadn't succumbed to the pressures of daily life, but to another person. Daniel said something that made Amelia playfully punch him, and he pulled her into a hug. They held each other for a long time. I watched from upstairs for a long time. The expression on Amelia's face was unfamiliar. I realized she hadn't looked at me with such tenderness in ages. Come to think of it, she hadn't even smiled at me in a long time, always returning home with a cold expression. I'd made excuses. She was tired from work. She was just naturally reserved. The reality was, she could smile, just not with me. I reached for the remote to turn off the light, and our eyes met. The smile vanished from her face. She said something to Daniel, and he, with a lingering look, waved goodbye and gave me a taunting fist pump before leaving. 5 minutes later, Amelia tossed her keys into the bowl. "Enjoy your little spying session?" "It was all right," I replied calmly. "When are you and Daniel getting married?" I asked. Amelia erupted. "Ethan, are you insane? Daniel's just my friend's younger brother. He just graduated and came to Shenzhen to find a job. He doesn't know anyone here, so what's wrong with me looking out for him?" She was impatient. "Can you stop being so petty? Do you really think everyone's as obsessed with relationships as you are? We have a normal sibling-like bond. I'm helping him now, and when he's successful, he'll return the favor. It's an investment, mutually beneficial. Stop projecting your dirty thoughts onto us." Us? She and him were us. I was the outsider. Glancing at the faint bruises on her neck, I felt a profound sense of emptiness. I turned, grabbed the divorce papers from the bookshelf, and handed them to her. "Sign them. The house, the car, they're all yours. I don't want anything. I just wanted to leave." Amelia curled her lip. "Idiot," she spat, slamming the bathroom door. She was guilty. She didn't realize it, but when she was guilty, she lashed out, as if that somehow justified her actions. Usually, she'd berate me, then wait for me to apologize, to give her a way out. But my heart was numb. I had no energy left, no desire to appease her. At 7 a.m., she kicked me awake. After 6 months of sleeping separately, this was the first time she'd entered my room. "What do you want?" she demanded. "Ethan, I'm telling you, I'm sick of your pettiness. Daniel and I are innocent. Either apologize or promise you'll never bring this up again, or I will divorce you. Don't think I won't. You'll regret this more than you know. I'm giving you a chance. Do you understand?" "Stop," I interrupted, rubbing my bruised shin. "I don't need your chance. If you won't sign, I'll get a lawyer. Don't worry about it." Amelia only knew she was annoyed with me. Had she ever considered that I couldn't stand her either? I was exhausted. The love had turned to weariness, and all I wanted was to leave, to be free. As she stared at me in disbelief, I quickly packed my bags and left. Just as I stepped out, she hurled a high heel at my back. "Get out, and don't come back. Don't be like a pathetic dog. I don't need you." I brushed the dust off my back, paused, but didn't turn around. That evening, mega influencer Amelia's marriage crumbles topped the trending charts. She received an outpouring of sympathy and support. I was branded a scumbag, cursed to a miserable life. Amelia was a beauty influencer with millions of followers, thanks to her looks and the wealthy persona she'd carefully cultivated. As the man behind the curtain, I was labeled a freeloader, a lovesick puppy, good for nothing except pleasing Amelia. No one knew that without me buying a place in Beijing, supporting her move to Shenzhen, funding her cosmetic procedures, and paying for the social media campaigns that built her rich girl image. No one would remember the plain-looking community college graduate from the countryside. I clicked on the trending topic. In the video, Amelia's eyes were red-rimmed, on the verge of tears. He's a good man, but I've outgrown him. Maybe divorce is what he needs to find happiness. Seemingly defending me, she subtly shifted the blame. I didn't believe for a second that a seasoned internet personality like her didn't understand the implications of her words. She just didn't care. My inbox was flooded with hate messages from her fans, cursing me, calling me a gold digger who dared to abandon her. I didn't bother responding. I deactivated all my social media accounts. Half an hour later, Amelia called. Scared now? Apologize, and I might forgive you. Don't make this any uglier. Her voice held a hint of anticipation, but mostly arrogance and impatience. I managed to laugh. I won't regret this. I'll be at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow at 9. You don't have to come, but if this goes to court, the truth will come out. I knew Amelia's biggest fear was a scandal. She had to be the innocent victim. So, despite her rage, she showed up the next day. I sat on a bench. Amelia, in her high heels, towered over me. Ethan, are you done with this charade? It's not like I just started being nice to Daniel. You accepted it all the other times. Why is this time different? She was right. Her generosity towards Daniel wasn't new. Worried he didn't have clothes, she bought out an entire clothing store for him. Afraid he'd tire himself out job hunting, she bought him a Mercedes. If I hadn't intervened, she would have bought him an apartment too. I wanted to ask myself why I'd been so tolerant, allowing their relationship to reach this point. But I said nothing, rising and heading towards the counter. Let's go. Amelia followed angrily. The clerk asked her to remove her mask, giving her a strange look. Amelia shifted uncomfortably, then, even though the pin was right next to her, haughtily demanded I hand it to her. I ignored her and filled out my forms. Her face flushed crimson. In the reason for divorce section, I wrote infidelity. Amelia retaliated with domestic violence, claiming I'd subjected her to emotional abuse. The clerk, her expression increasingly bemused, for once didn't try to reconcile us, simply reminding us to return after the cooling-off period to finalize the divorce. Outside, Amelia slapped me. Ethan, I was blind to ever fall for a loser like you. You'll regret leaving me. You'll never find a better woman. She said it with such conviction that I laughed. Amelia, keep living in your fantasy world. You're never wrong. It's always me. I don't know how you can justify hating me, but I thank you for giving me my freedom. I wish you and Daniel all the best. May you have many children and grow old together. Ignoring her suddenly pale face, I hailed a cab and left. Goodbye, Amelia. Goodbye to 10 years of my life. Goodbye to all the pain and humiliation. I was moving on. I rented a place in the suburbs. Besides being Amelia's assistant, I'd been working on screenplays. I'd majored in film. If it wasn't for Amelia, I might already be a screenwriter or director. I met Amelia during the darkest period of my life. My parents had died in a car accident, my graduate school acceptance was rescinded, and a classmate plagiarized my screenplay, then accused me of being the thief. I sat dejectedly on the curb, lost in the bustling crowd, when Amelia bounced up to me. Hey, you look down. Let me buy you a milk tea. Something sweet will cheer you up. I wasn't in the mood, but she dragged me to a tea shop and, without blinking, ordered over 20 milk teas. Although I ended up paying, her words resonated. She'd said, life is like these milk teas. If this one doesn't taste good, try the next one. There are so many paths, so many choices, you'll find the right one eventually. After that, she stayed by my side, listening to my woes, helping me recover. I believed we had loved each other deeply. So, when she said, baby, I want the world to see me, I didn't hesitate to put aside everything to support her. Things change. I didn't know how we drifted apart, but it was over. I immersed myself in writing. For a week, I had no contact with the outside world. When I finally finished a script and turned on my phone, it was filled with missed calls. All from Amelia. Just as I was wondering what was going on, she called again. Hesitantly, I answered, "Hello?" Amelia's breathing was heavy, followed by a long silence. Just as I was about to hang up, she started crying. "Ethan, can you come back? I miss you. I didn't realize how much I needed you. I was wrong. Please come back." My heart clenched. If I wasn't mistaken, this was the first time in 10 years that Amelia had shown vulnerability. I couldn't help but think, if only she'd listened to me during our arguments, maybe we wouldn't be here. I, too, was silent for a long time. Finally, I decided to give us another chance. "Where are you? I'll come to you." With a mixture of hope and trepidation, I took a cab back to our apartment. But when I opened the door, Amelia wasn't there to greet me with a hesitant embrace. Instead, she and Daniel were sitting on the couch, their backs to me. Daniel said, "Amelia, are you really going to get back together with him? I don't like it. I want you all to myself." "Amelia, silly, I don't love him anymore. I just need him for work. And I have to split the assets with him if we divorce. Just watch. Ethan's an idiot. A few sweet words and he's back. Then, once I've transferred everything, I'll dump him." Daniel looked at her adoringly. "You're so smart. I should go before he sees me." "He already has." I leaned against the doorframe, my fists clenched, my gaze icy. Amelia panicked. "Ethan, it's not what you think. I was just saying that to appease Daniel. I swear, I still love you. Don't misunderstand." I'd once heard that forgiving someone is like giving them a second bullet to finish the job the first one missed. Amelia grabbed my arm. "Please listen to me. Don't be angry, okay?" A flicker of resentment crossed Daniel's face. "Amelia, I'll go. You two talk," he said meekly. Amelia glared at him, then turned to me with a pleading look. She led me to the dining table. "You must be hungry. Look, I made all your favorite dishes. I know you haven't been having an easy time either. Let's eat first, then we can talk, okay?" The table was laden with food. Amelia had clearly put in effort, but she'd forgotten I was allergic to chili peppers. Even a small amount would give me a rash. And every dish was laced with chili. I pulled away, my expression blank. "Amelia, you're truly remarkable. Remarkable at making a fool of me, drawing me back only to humiliate me again. And I was truly pathetic, allowing her to treat me like an idiot for years, still believing in her, foolishly giving her another chance. In her eyes, I was nothing less than dirt." Amelia's face paled. It's okay," she stammered. "It wasn't that hard to make. If you like it, I can make more." She mumbled something, then seeing my expression, fell silent. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Whether you believe it or not, what I said on the phone was true. I really do miss you. I can't live without you. It's just, when Daniel's around, he's so obedient and considerate, I can't help but want to." What I said wasn't sincere. "If you come back, I'll give you everything I own." I knew she was trying to manipulate me, waiting for me to say, "It's okay." But I wasn't going to forgive her, not anymore. After love comes weariness, and after weariness, now I understood. It was hate. I loathed Amelia. She turned all my efforts and devotion into a joke. In her eyes, I was a clown. I was nothing to her. Even as our marriage crumbled, as I stood before her in anger, her eyes still didn't see me, flitting instead to Daniel behind me. Initially, I hadn't wanted anything in the divorce. Despite all I'd invested, I'd done it willingly. I hadn't hated her enough to negate my past self, but not anymore. I deserved what was mine. Amelia wasn't worth it. So, as Amelia looked at me expectantly, I smiled. "Okay." A triumphant smile spread across her face. I continued, "Give me everything you own. Then I promise I won't leave." Her smile froze. "What?" she asked, disbelieving. I wasn't going to coddle her. "When are we going to the notary? A prenuptial agreement would give me peace of mind." Amelia's face darkened. "There's no need to rush," she said, forcing a smile. "Why don't you eat first? I'll get someone to handle it later." I nodded. "Fine. When it's done, I'll come back." Daniel couldn't contain himself. In his mind, Amelia's money was his. He rushed towards me. Ethan, don't push it. Amelia doesn't need you. I didn't even flinch. Who let the dog out? You. Daniel's face turned red, and he swung at me. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and with a swift motion, flipped him over my shoulder onto the floor. Daniel. Amelia rushed to his side, helping him up, her eyes burning with hatred. Ethan, you're crazy. Violent. Why resort to violence? He was just sticking up for me. Stop it. I'll call the police. Daniel cowered in Amelia's arms, playing the victim perfectly. I was disgusted. I'd seen pathetic freeloaders, but he was truly repulsive. He didn't deserve to be called a man. Meeting Amelia's furious gaze, I scoffed. Amelia, are you raising a boyfriend or a son? He's a grown man, whining like a child. I'm embarrassed for him. Ignoring their livid faces, I laughed and walked out. I should have put them in their place a long time ago. It felt good. But as I hummed a tune downstairs, Daniel chased after me and smashed a beer bottle against the back of my head. I groaned, blood trickling down my face. Daniel smirked. Not so tough now, are you, Ethan? Bark again. I dare you. I'll kill you. Amelia trailed behind him. Her expression as she looked at me was complex, but she remained silent, standing by Daniel's side. I laughed, a bitter sound. I'd been far too lenient, allowing them to walk all over me. When Amelia's fame was new, I chased off creepy men with a baseball bat, landing myself in jail a few times. That's why she called me violent. I was fiercely protective, but she saw me as crude and barbaric, not refined and polite like Daniel. I scanned my surroundings, picked up a brick from a flower bed, and started tossing it in my hand, walking towards them. Daniel flinched, backing away, glancing at Amelia. Amelia stepped in front of him. Ethan, what are you doing? Daniel was wrong, but you started it. You insulted us. He was defending me. Stop it. I'll call the police. The police? If the police were enough, what need was there for laws? I kept walking, my eyes fixed on them. Amelia swallowed nervously, Daniel shrinking behind her. Finally, I reached her, raised the brick high, and brought it crashing down between them. Their faces paled. I sneered, Amelia, even if you're going to cheat, couldn't you find someone better? Is this the best you can do? My words hit a nerve. Daniel's face turned an ugly shade of green. Disappointment flickered in Amelia's eyes. I put my hands in my pockets. I won't lay a hand on you, but this isn't over. Looking at Amelia, I said, congratulations. You've successfully turned a man who loved you into your enemy. I turned and walked away. The wound on my head throbbed, but it was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. I thought I wouldn't feel anything for Amelia anymore, but she'd managed to hurt me again. Her words, her actions, they all stung. The cab driver, an older man, looked at my wound and my expression. What happened, son? Someone mess with you? A real man fights back. Don't bottle it up. Don't let them get away with it. I masked my sadness. You're right, I said. Back at my apartment, I drafted a post detailing Amelia's infidelity, how she'd flaunted it in my face, and how she'd twisted the narrative. Within half an hour, it went viral, picked up by gossip accounts and trending across platforms. Amelia bombarded me with calls and messages. Ethan, are you insane? Take it down. You're ruining me. I'm losing my mind. My followers have dropped from 15 million to 10 million. Brands are demanding I pay for breach of contract. Ethan, I'm begging you, please stop this. I'll break up with Daniel. I swear I'll never see him again. I'll only love you. Please forgive me, delete the post, and help me clear my name. It took me 10 years to get here. Don't let me fall from grace. Amelia pleaded relentlessly. I looked at the messages flooding my screen, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Now she was begging. Had she ever cared about my pleas? 3 years earlier, when Daniel first appeared, I knew something was off. Amelia, always so proud, had squatted on the street to help him pick up dropped flyers. He'd called her big sister gratefully, and they exchanged numbers. Then she brought him home, cooked him a feast she'd never made for me, and showered him with PR gifts, whether he could use them or not. She said he was too naive to take care of himself, skipping her video shoots to cook and clean for him, yet she couldn't remember that I had a sensitive stomach and couldn't eat cold food. I'd wait for her at home, from dawn till dusk, only to be met with, "Useless. Can't you even heat up your own food?" When I was rushed to the hospital with acute gastroenteritis, I begged her to come. She ignored me, saying I wouldn't die, and not to disturb her while she accompanied Daniel to a job interview. My heart shattered. I pleaded with her to end things with Daniel. She just accused me of being petty, of being unable to tolerate even a friend from her hometown, of twisting their pure relationship into something dirty. I couldn't take it and left. She'd lure me back, only to humiliate me further. I wasn't a saint. Even a saint would have reached their limit. She had brought this on herself. I wasn't going to soften. Amelia's downfall was swift. She'd never cared about my feelings, flaunting her affair with Daniel so brazenly. As her assistant, I had plenty of evidence. I hammered her with it until she was speechless. The internet turned on her, and my name was cleared. I was no longer the freeloader, the useless husband living off his wife. Now, everyone sympathized with me. I received an outpouring of support, with messages flooding my Weibo, lawyers offering to represent me pro bono to recoup the millions I'd spent on Amelia. Under pressure, Amelia publicly distanced herself from Daniel, releasing 3 videos claiming they were just friends, that their hotel stays were 4 tutoring sessions. Each video was met with ridicule and taken down. Brands cut ties with her, demanding compensation. Amelia was on the verge of a breakdown. She locked her social media accounts and disabled comments. She tried contacting me again, but I'd blocked her. A month passed. I heard from Amelia again when the clerk called about our divorce certificates. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, I saw a woman who looked years older than her age. Amelia, who used to religiously maintain her appearance with regular cosmetic treatments and salon visits, now had wrinkles, dull hair, and chipped nails. Seeing me, her eyes flashed with resentment, her voice trembling. "Are you satisfied now that you've ruined me?" Unlike her, I was thriving. Vengeance had lifted a weight off my shoulders, my writing flowing freely. I'd sold 3 screenplays in a month. I nodded indifferently. "It's all right." Amelia snapped, lunging at me, trying to strangle me. "Ethan, you bastard. I'll kill you." I stopped her easily. I looked at her coldly. "Amelia, this has nothing to do with me. You did this to yourself. Don't make a scene." Amelia's chest heaved, her eyes bloodshot. She clearly wasn't listening. I didn't bother engaging further. Under the clerk's sympathetic gaze, I collected our divorce certificates. The small red book, almost identical to our marriage certificate, marked the definitive end of our relationship. Outside, the sun was shining. I remembered 7 years earlier, standing in the same spot, collecting our marriage certificate. Amelia had jumped into my arms, exclaiming, "We're finally married. From now on, we're a family. I'll love you forever. You have to love me too." I'd spun her around, laughing. Of course. But she'd broken her promise, and I hadn't held up my end either. Perhaps the same memory struck Amelia, because her rage suddenly dissolved into tears. "Ethan," she sobbed, "how did we end up like this? Was it really all my fault? If I change, can we start over?" She looked at me with pleading eyes. I shook my head. A broken mirror can't be truly fixed. Even if it is, it's not the same anymore. Amelia, we're over. Amelia collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Before, her tears would have broken my heart. I used to dread her crying, seeing it as a reflection of my failure to take care of her. Her tears would make me want to do anything to make her happy. But now, even as she wept, I felt nothing. In that moment, I realized I was truly free. No longer bound by her in the name of love, no longer at the mercy of her moods. I didn't linger. I went back to my apartment. I didn't hear from Amelia again for 3 years. By then, I was a successful screenwriter, in high demand, with a hit romantic movie under my belt. Amelia had attempted a comeback, but her influence had waned. The internet might have a short memory, but without me managing her image and content, her accounts had deteriorated. Before, with my help, she'd earn millions per endorsement. Now, she struggled to get 10,000. Her followers were no longer devoted fans. Many, aware of her infidelity, flooded her comments with requests for a sugar mama. They urged her to dump Daniel and find a younger, stronger toy boy. Daniel, now her assistant, engaged in online battles with these commenters, further damaging her reputation. 3 years on, Amelia's life was a mess. Even Daniel no longer respected her, openly flirting with other girls in front of her. The knife she'd twisted in my back had become a boomerang. Filled with regret, Amelia sent me a long message from a burner account. She confessed, claiming to finally understand why she cheated. She said I'd been too good to her, creating pressure, making her feel inadequate and indebted, despite the fact I'd never asked for anything in return. My unwavering support and constant concessions had suffocated her. Daniel had given her a sense of power. She'd showered him with gifts, cars, and clothes to feel in control. He was, she claimed, like I'd been when we'd first met, needing her, allowing her to help and control him. She insisted she'd only ever loved me, that her feelings for Daniel weren't love, but a form of charity. She said she'd realized too late and asked for another chance. 2 screens worth of text. I skimmed it and dismissed it with a laugh. A good person remembers kindness, a bad person resents it. Amelia's message only deepened my disdain. I thought my silence would be enough. I was wrong. She tracked me down, waiting for me outside the television station. Hi, Ethan. Long time no see. 3 years had aged her. Without proper upkeep, her surgically enhanced face had started to sag, especially when she smiled. The sight was unsettling. I frowned. Can I help you? A flicker of resentment crossed her eyes. After 3 years, don't you even miss me a little? She asked, her voice trembling. I didn't answer, glancing at my watch. I had a meeting. I hoped she wouldn't take too long. My simple gesture seemed to break her. Am I that unbearable to you? Can you even look at me? She yelled. I sighed and met her gaze. Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes. She pulled out a stack of documents and thrust them into my hands. What's this? I asked, confused. Amelia trembled, the action seemingly draining her. These are everything I gave Daniel. I took them back, she said, her voice pleading. I'm giving them all to you. Please forgive me. Let's start over. Her eyes were fixed on my lips, desperate for me to say what she wanted to hear. I shook my head. Amelia, it's over. You don't have to do this. I won't accept. Go home. Please don't contact me again. My words were cold, but I couldn't offer her any more kindness. Any tenderness I'd had for her had died 3 years ago. Hearing my response, Amelia broke down again, just like at the Civil Affairs Bureau. She knelt, clinging to my leg, begging for forgiveness. Please, Ethan, come back. No one has ever been kind to me since you left. You don't know how much I've suffered these past 3 years. I think about you constantly. I regret everything. I regret so much. I lost you. You were so good to me, and I didn't appreciate it. I know nothing I say will make you forgive me, but please, don't treat me like a stranger. We were together for 10 years. I'd rather you hate me than look at me like this. Her cries drew a crowd. I sighed, reaching down to help her up. Suddenly, Daniel appeared, brandishing a fruit knife, charging towards me. Ethan, you bastard. Amelia's my wife. You have no right to touch her. And my house, my car, they're mine. You won't get them. I'd known Daniel wasn't a good person. He was shameless, willing to degrade himself for Amelia's money, fawning over her without a shred of dignity. It wasn't surprising he'd resort to this, but I hadn't expected him to be so reckless, attacking me in public. I stepped back, calculating the distance, confident I could avoid him. But Amelia suddenly tackled me, shielding me with her body. Daniel's knife plunged into her repeatedly. Amelia coughed up blood, spraying my face. I'm sorry, she whispered. Anne, I love you. Security guards pulled Daniel away. I stared at Amelia, lifeless in my arms, unable to process what had happened. Something precious, something I thought I'd lost long ago, had been ripped away. My breath caught in my throat. Tears finally came. I'd loved her, hated her, but never wished her dead. Amelia had paid for my past pain with her life. I forgave her. I truly did. We couldn't be lovers, but maybe, just maybe, we could have been friends. But Amelia was gone. My heart ached, filled with regret. Daniel was arrested, facing a certain death sentence. He transferred all his assets to Amelia before the attack, but I didn't want them. I gave everything, including Amelia's own assets, to her family. We gave Amelia a grand funeral. Years have passed. I'm married with a family of my own. My wife adores me. My children are a joy. Sometimes, I visit Amelia's grave, light a stick of incense, and wish her a good rebirth, a happier next life. But that's all.